everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to Trekalicious. I am Kuja Terekov, and we have the season finale for the GT3s in Le Mans Ultimate for the Friday Championship here at Trekalicious. We have it at the world-famous Circuit de la Sarthe track, where the 24 Hours of Le Mans will be held this coming weekend. We had the free practices and the qualifyings earlier in this week, yesterday and the day before, and now we have the qualifying for the GT3s here at Trekalicious. Let's head to the Circuit de la Sarthe and see what the action is all about. We have a 15-minute session, about 12 minutes remaining. It is a very long outlap for the GT3s, about 4.5 minutes. So none of these drivers are out on a flying lap yet, but it will be absolutely crucial for them to nail each and every qualifying lap that they have. Not too many attempts, and they have to be perfect throughout the 38 corners that they have to manage around the very, very long Circuit de la Sarthe track. Hey Doc Mill, we hope you're doing well. Let's go racing indeed. It is that time of the day. We've got drivers on their outlaps, a few drivers still in the pits waiting to get their qualifying session going. This is Elliott Brown in the TF Sport Corvette going through the Porsche curves, slightly ahead of that pack before. Had caps lock on. Uh-oh. That's happened sometimes, Doc Mill. We totally get it here, and it shows that you're excited, which we really should be. A very big grid tonight. 32 cars so far joining us. Might have a few joining a bit late. The 24-hour of Le Mans stream looks little. What looks different about it? The fact that there's 32 GT3s on track, or what about it, Brian? Tell me. Do let me know. Let us know how we can improve things. Always happy to hear the comments to make your experience better. Elliott Brown starting his first flying lap attempt. Chris Barnes just behind in the TF Sport Corvette in the number 82. Slightly different colors on the two of those. The yellow body, black nose and tail, as opposed to the 81 we saw earlier, where the colors are inverted. Nonetheless, Chris Barnes going through the permanent track facility and onto the roadways at Le Mans, flat out for nearly 85% of the lap. And it is due to these long Mulsanne straights separated by two chicanes. Chris Barnes approaching the first one of those. It is a right, left, right at the Daytona chicane, braking at right around the 100 board, and he goes through pretty flawlessly there, riding the curb on the inside, cutting the track as much as he can while carrying as much speed as possible. Lots of Corvettes on the grid here this evening, and that is good to see. Nice, great sound coming out of the back of the mid-engine Corvettes. Up in front, you can hear the roar of one of the BMWs, and the BMWs and Fords up in front. You've got Greg Ketch going through the braking zone and through the Mulsanne corner. One of the long-standing points of the track. Track used to be pretty much a triangle from that corner, Mulsanne, where Greg Ketch just went through, and on this long straight road section he is approaching Indianapolis and then Arnage. Arnage was the second point of that triangle, and Arnage through the right hand, or excuse me, Greg Ketch through the right-hander into the braking zone at Indianapolis. Taking it very well in the Corvette. The 46 behind there, I believe that is Jake Terrell. Lots of 46 BMWs on the grid as well. The Valentino Rossi livery, very popular amongst the drivers. We will see quite a few variations on the livery though. But this is the 77 Proton Racing, blasting out of Arnage into the Porsche curves. Very, very quick right-hand corner, followed by a near flat-out left with a wall, fast approaching on the exit, and then another series of fast sweeping corners as the Mustang now goes through the Corvette curves, taking as much track as he can, but not running wide onto the sausages there, and through the fast section he goes up until the Ford chicanes to close the lap. Going through the first part very well, taking the track very nicely on the brakes again, down a gear, and not going too heavily on the outside curb. What time can Greg Ketch put on the board? It is a 4:01.089. That is the time to catch for the time being. Jake Terrell across the line, a 10th off of the time set by Ketch. Now Mike Vasquez in the Team WRT number 31 to the line. He goes third fastest. He gets by Perkins in the 88 Mustang. Brown across the line in 6th. Hildenbrand in the 31 getting pushed down to 4th as Chris Barnes is able to jump those drivers and set a time good enough for 3rd place. This is Lester Banks going through the straightaway between Mulsanne and Indianapolis. We continue to wait for those times to get on the board. Just under 6 minutes left on the clock. As we said, getting every lap here is absolutely critical. Not a lot of time on the board for laps, so every single corner matters, and there are a lot of corners, 38 of them around the 8.5 mile circuit de la Sarthe here in France. Lester Banks in the Montai Pure Racing Porsche. No time yet on the board for him. Plenty of drivers getting their times. We've got Ketch at the top, then Terrell in 2nd, Barnes in 3rd, Infante in 4th, Alex Hansen in 5th, Hildenbrand in 6th, Ryan Eason in 7th, Mike Vasquez in 8th place, Thomas Baker in 9th, Perkins in 10th. Actually just getting pushed down as Alex Afonso was able to get a lap good enough for 9th place, gets into the top 10. Then you have one Bigley in 13th, Buggy Watt 14th, Nick Johnson in 15th, Jay Daly 16th, Ben Swindon 17th, Arlen Santos in 18th, and Ducharme, the last of those, able to set a valid lap on the board as Lester Banks here, unfortunately having to return to the pits. So no valid lap on the board yet for the Porsche driver. Anton Rushevich going through the straight in between Mulsanne and Indianapolis. Nick Wheeler on the exit of Arnage going through the Porsche curves in the 54 of Vista AF Corsa Ferrari. No time on the board yet for the Ferrari, flirting with the barrier on the exit of the Porsche curve, but no contact there, pushing it right to the edge as he is looking to get as much time as possible out of his lap to put himself on the board. How high can the Ferrari go? We only have the 54 of Buggy Watt on the board up in 14th, excuse me. Where can Nick Wheeler go amongst the drivers in the grid here? Up to the line, exiting the final chicane. He goes to the top 3, 3rd place for Nick Wheeler. Great time set by the Ferrari driver. Ben Swindon in the heart of racing, Aston Martin. currently sitting in 18th place. Looking to get a good time on the board. Has improvements through the first two sectors. Running a little bit wide, kicking up a bit of gravel on the exit of Indianapolis. And in the braking zone of Arnage, it is well handled. Nearly going into the barrier on the exit of the corner. As times continue to roll in here, time is running out though. We have an improvement at the top, and Jake Terrell gets by Greg Ketch. Jake Terrell, a 4:00.566 is now the time to beat for provisional pole. Can Ben Swindon get close to that time? Exiting the Porsche curves and now approaching the much quicker flat-out Corvette curve here at the exit. Approaching the Ford chicanes to close the lap, and he will have time to start another lap on the board. The BMW in front, just about getting out of the way there, having to cut the corner a little bit on the unoptimal racing line, but nonetheless, Ben Swindon able to improve up to 11th place. Got improvements all around on the board. Kevin Conboy unable to get a lap on the board so far. Very critical that he does so on this lap. Just needing to get on the board and nearly cutting through the course there, and hopefully keeping it valid. As the tire model update also coming out earlier in the week on Tuesday. So certainly providing a challenge for the drivers who have not had a lot of practice time, as Kevin Conboy returns to the pits, so he will be unable to put a valid lap on the board in this session. Just behind him is Nitin Murthy in the Proton Racing number 44. No lap on the board as he comes up to the line. Can he jump a few places? He can. He goes up to 24th and crucially able to cross the line before the checkered flag waves. So this lap will also count if he is able to get it on the board. Got lots of drivers in the pits. Jake Terrell and Greg Ketch in the pits. Nick Wheeler sitting in the top three, looking to get an improvement. Needs a mighty improvement, though. Those times at the top are quick. Oh, and running wide on the exit there, kicking it. Or kicking the rear out. Unable to keep it under control, but within the track limits was Nick Wheeler. Just have to wait and see if there is an improvement from the Ferrari driver, if he can potentially jump the Ford or the BMW in front, coming to the line, unable to improve on his time at the last attempt, and that will be the qualifying session done for our top three. So they will no longer be able to go out to try and set a lap for improvement, unlike Aiden Burke here, who is on a flying lap. No time on the board yet, sitting in 26th. And any sort of lap on the board will jump the Proton Racing driver a few places, as the Toyota sign covers up our shot there. Aiden Burke going through Indianapolis here, trying to find an improvement at the last attempt. With the timer hitting 0, this will be the last attempt of all of those drivers on a flying lap attempt at the moment. Aiden Burke rounding out Arnage. Under the Porsche sign goes the Mustang with the Corvette behind him. Both looking for an improvement to get a good lap on the board. scraping the splitter as he goes through the first part of the Porsche curves. The car really getting thrown around as it is a series of left, right, and then left sweepers, and then again on the exit, another right-left chicane to follow. And it did look like Aiden Burke was just slightly across the limits there, but perhaps the track limits are a little bit more lenient in that part, exiting the Porsche curves, and through the Ford chicane he goes. Checkered flag is waving. Where can Aiden Burke find himself? He finds himself up in 11th place. Good improvement from him to get a lap on the board on his last attempt. Alex Afonso looking to do the same. In the heart of racing, Aston Martin number 27. Oh, excuse me, pardon me, was just looking at a few gaps there while taking a sip of tea. And Alex Afonso going through those Porsche curves. Not nearly as close to the barrier on the exit as we've seen a few other drivers. Keeping it nice and controlled through here. Just waiting to apply the power all the way down before going through the flat out right and left hander. Approaching the braking zone of the Ford chicanes. Very quick first part. Slowing down for the second part. Can Alex Afonso potentially find himself in the top 10? Currently in 13th. To the line he goes. He goes up into 8th place. Great lap from him at the last attempt to get himself into a top 10 position. This is the Inception Racing of Damon Mick. The last car out on track at the moment. So the qualifying session will be done once the McLaren returns to the pits here. And back they go. So we will wait for the session to forward to the race. And that is the qualifying session
Teams and
completed.
Go to the grid for a race start.
You heard it there from the race director. The drivers have a little bit of time here to get their race setups in for the 45-minute race we have ahead of us. There we have Mike Vasquez ready with his setup in 7th place out on track. We'll wait for the rest of the grid to fill in. Actually, why don't we start with our grid walk? It's a very short, limited amount of time. So we got Jake Terrell out on pole position with Greg Catch behind him in the 77 Mustang. Then Nick Wheeler in the 54 Ferrari, still in the pits at the moment, with Chris Barnes in the 82 TF Sport Corvette, keeping him company on the second row. Then on the third row, you have Anton Rushevich and Angel Infante, the two McLarens, the 59 and the 95, alongside each other. Moving on further down, you've got Mike Vasquez in 7th place with Alex Afonso in 8th. Joshua Hildenbrand in 9th. Alex Hansen rounds out the top 10. Ryan Eason is in 11th place with Aiden Burke in 12th. Ben Swindon in 13th. Javier Gomez-Beira in 14th. Thomas Baker in 15th. One Bigley in 16th place. Ilpo Rutsalainen in 17th. Lavoris Perkins in 18th. Elliott Brown 19th. Arlen Santos rounds out the top 20. Then you have Buggy Watt in 21st. Damon Mick 22nd. Shadow Governor 23rd. Jay Daly behind them. Nick Johnson in 25th. Nitin Murthy in 26th. Ducharme in 27th. Carlos Torre 28th. Gelson Cruz behind him. Then Lester Banks in 30th. Kevin Convoy, Joseph German, Patrick Dubois, or Omar Escorcia, Jacob Palmieri, and Javier Sanabria rounds out the grid. And as the drivers get themselves ready for the start of the race. Collisions are enabled, so you certainly want to keep an eye on the car in front of you. Don't want to pick up any early damage here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Rounding out the chicanes, and then it is a short blast to the line where the green flag will wave and release the 36 car GT3 grid here at Le Mans. Green flag is at the ready by the marshal. Jake Terrell gets a good jump from pole position. Can Greg Ketch keep Chris Barnes behind, who is already ahead of the Ferrari? Down a place and under pressure from the McLaren. I believe that is Anton Rushevich trying to make up a few places at the start, ahead of the Ferrari into the outside of the Dunlop chicane. Can they go side by side? The Ferrari has the momentum around the outside there, and Anton Rushevich now under pressure from his McLaren teammate, and they go side by side through the S's in the permanent section of the track before we go down the Mulsanne straight for the first time. The Ford of Burke looking to get involved in the action, as well as that is Rushevich getting through on the outside. Angel Infante unfortunately had to take the inside line there, so he was a little bit slowed down. Might be really under pressure here from behind, but the McLaren trying to break the toe as best as it can. Has the Ford in front, breaking the air for him. And Jake Terrell, Greg Ketch, Chris Barnes, and Wheeler remain out in front. Then Rushevich in fifth. Then Burke with a good start gets a place on the McLaren, and they are nearly 3 wide going into the back. That was Alex Hansen under pressure. Oh, and that is the Ferrari of Wheeler in the wall, missing the wing. Heavy damage to the Ferrari, exiting the Daytona chicane. And he will try to limp back to the pits. Unfortunate there. Alex Hansen under pressure from the BMW behind of Hildenbrand, but also looking to apply the pressure in front to the 27 Aston Martin of Afonso, looking to the inside line at the Michelin chicane, really deep on the brakes. Same with the BMW, having a look down the inside, but Alex Hansen moving up into 8th place. Afonso in 9th. And Joshua Hildenbrand unable to sneak through there, trying to go for the advantageous move. Unable to get the move done, and he is now under pressure from the BMW of Javier Gomez-Bera. This is the battle for the final top 10 position. Gomez-Bera down the inside, not able to keep the momentum. And around the outside goes Hildenbrand, but sweeping through the inside, keeping the speed, was the 46 of Bera. Right on the bumper of the Team WRT number 31 in front. The two teammates certainly battling it out. Perhaps not really teammates, they are just in the same car. And side by side through the first part of Indianapolis, Gomez-Bera goes through. Hildenbrand just having to lift off, and now Ryan Eason looking to apply the pressure, oversteering on the exit of Indianapolis, losing the position to the Aston Martin. But he is certainly still within fighting range of the cars in front, potentially looking to even sneak up into the top 10. Anything is possible here. Exiting Arnage, going through the Porsche curves for the first time in race conditions. The two BMWs, oh, and a slight lockup there from the BMW. Then into the gravel there. Or maybe somebody was going sideways, couldn't quite tell what happened there. Either a lockup or some side-by-side action causing a car to go into the gravel, but nonetheless, at least that was the sound of what happened. It couldn't quite pick out what happened there. Afonso now back in the pits, as is Gelson Cruz. Unfortunate to see their races end like that. But the battles continue for the top 10 positions here. This is Joshua Hildenbrand under pressure from the 27 of Ben Swindon. Completing just one lap here takes quite a long while, with it being 8.5 miles long, with the permanent facility at the Bugatti circuit here. It sweeps off to the right normally, but the drivers here sweeping back to the left through the S's before entering onto the public roadway at the Mulsanne Straight. Joshua Hildenbrand trying to break the toe of the Aston Martin behind, but he doesn't have a good slipstream in front and the meanwhile, so he will certainly be under pressure come the braking zone. The Aston Martin already having a look to the inside. They will go side by side to the braking zone of Daytona. Who will be the last on the brakes? Will it be the BMW on the outside, the Aston Martin on the inside? And the Aston Martin holding the line for the meantime, but the BMW fighting back. There is a wheel gone. That is the McLaren stranded there. Unfortunate to see there. I think that was Infante, the 95, losing a few places there and unfortunately unable to keep going with that wheel off the car there. Man, oh man. Drivers just unable to get to grips with these tires, it seems. They're just, especially with these heavy fuel loads at the beginning of the race, as Joshua Hildenbrand almost giving some room to the Aston Martin behind of Ben Swindon, but Ben Swindon unable to take a look inside that little door that was just opening up, and so he will have to wait for another moment to try and fight for that position. And is this the moment now into the braking zone of the Mulsanne corner? The Aston Martin around the outside, the BMW covering off the inside, but giving just about a car's width to the Aston Martin on the outside. Great racing between the pair of these drivers here. BMW versus Aston Martin, straight line speed. No driver really has the benefit of the toe, but it looks like the BMW has a slight advantage for the time being. And now there is a big kink to the right before the braking zone at Indianapolis. The BMW already in front of the Aston Martin before that moment even comes, but the Aston Martin again having a look down the inside, but the BMW covers it off very well. And with a few cars dropping back, this moves the BMW up into 7th place. So the Aston behind of Ben Swindon in 9th. Then you have Ryan Eason in 10th. Ilpo Ruotsalainen in 10th. In the other 46 BMW, making this a big 46 BMW sandwich between Gomez Berra in 6th and Ilpo Ruotsalainen in 10th place. Oh, and the Aston Martin tapping the wall there. Ben Swindon potentially picking up a bit of damage to his Aston Martin. Hopefully it was just a bit of bodywork and no suspension damage hurting the BMW. Both the Aston Martin and the Corvette running wide there. That was Ryan Eason in the 82, trying to keep it within track limits. New tires suck on this game. That's so I hear. A few drivers saying they love the new tire update, some saying they really don't. This is the battle for the lead of the race. Greg Ketch not giving Jake Terrell any breathing room at the front. As they continue to battle for the overall lead of the season finale here. Jake Terrell in front. But because he is in front, he is pushing the air out of the way of Greg Ketch in the Ford behind to try and use any sort of straight line speed advantage he can to take the BMW into the first braking zone at Daytona at the end of the first part of the Mulsanne Straight. And side by side are Barnes and Burke behind in the battle for the final podium place. And here, Greg Ketch just tucking in behind. And let's see what happens in the back here. Aiden Burke gets through Chris Barnes for the final podium position. So Aiden Burke takes that place away in the 77. Proton racing, and he will look ahead now. 5 seconds is the gap between the final podium places here of Burke and Barnes behind him, also trying to not give him any breathing room. Now he has the slipstream on the Ford, trying to use it to his advantage down the second part of the Mulsanne straight between the two chicanes and into the braking zone. Nothing to it there for the Corvette, looking to just stay close and potentially use the cornering advantage that the Corvette might have through the last sector of the track. And Greg Ketch still not able to find that little bit of room he needs to make the move into the braking zone at Mulsanne. BMW going a little bit heavy over the curb there. Just might lose that little bit of straight line speed advantage he needs on the approach to Indianapolis. And see in the background there, the final podium place is not really too far off, and if these two begin to battle, that might really slow their lap times down and draw in the drivers behind. But at the same time, Greg Ketch happy to stay behind and use the slipstream to try and pull away from the final podium sitters behind. Going through Arnage are the leaders and into the Porsche curbs. Very difficult to get a move done into here. It's almost very tricky to follow somebody through here too. Oh, and there's a big wiggle from Jake Terrell in front, trying to carry as much speed as he could through the first part, but keeping the BMW pointed in the correct direction. Well done to him, keeping it all under control. Maintaining the lead in front of Greg Ketch. Keeping it within the white lines of the track there. We've seen a few drivers run a little bit wide there. Don't want to pick up too many track limit violations, that might cost you a drive-through penalty come the end of the 45-minute race. Season finale underway. Just about 12 and a half minutes completed. Jake Terrell still in the lead ahead of Greg Ketch, but he is certainly not giving him any sort of breathing room at the front there. We've got a pit from Joshua Hildenbrand. He will be the first driver to come into the pits. There is a 2x fuel consumption in the race, as nearly side by side through the S's go Greg Ketch and Jake Terrell. And going through Tete Rouge now, Greg Ketch will try to carry as much speed as he can. Much closer on this lap than he was before. Will look to stay close to the bumper of the BMW and try and get him into the braking zone at the Daytona chicane. Staying right on the bumper, right on the wing. The gap was closing and now it just opened up that slight bit before the braking zone. Greg Ketch not looking to take a move on just yet, as Jake Terrell sliding all over the road, not using all of the exit speed he possibly could have, as we've seen him do on the lap before. And so now Greg Ketch, with a much better exit out of the Daytona chicane, will look to line up a move into the Michelin chicane. Coming up to that braking zone now, and Greg Ketch not having a look again to the inside. Pretty evenly matched on top speed are the two drivers out in the lead for the time being. As this battle continues for the lead into Mulsanne, once again Greg Ketch is not looking to get the move done just yet. He might just be waiting for the right time to pounce, happy with the speed and the pace that they are having out front, and looking to run away from the podium sitters behind. This is Thomas Baker in 13th place, trying to chase Sanabria in front. And just a little bit ahead of that duo on track is Omar Escorcia, chasing down Ryan Eason for 8th place. Side by side they go on the exit of Mulsanne, approaching Indianapolis. The Corvette has the inside through the kink, but crucially the McLaren will have the inside in the braking zone. And can Omar Escorcia hold it around the outside? He sweeps on through the nose, through the kink before the braking zone, and that is the position gained for the time being, but he runs wide, losing the speed in the gravel, opening up the inside, and Ryan Eason sneaking on through. A bit of contact between the two, but nothing major there, and Ryan Eason breaking the slipstream. Omar Escorcia getting a much better exit as he already gets by, and so does the BMW of Ilpo Ruotsalainen. Back up into 9th place goes Ilpo, and Ryan Eason drops to 10th and into the braking zone of the Porsche curve. Can Ryan Eason get the move done? He can! Almost looked like he was going to tuck back in behind the BMW of Ruotsalainen, but then Ryan Eason very confident on the brakes into the Porsche curves, able to keep that inside line and keep 9th place with the BMW charging behind. Oh, and there's a BMW out there. That was Gomez Beira, I believe, in the number 46. Fortunately, just losing a few places, but it looked like all of the car was intact, so he will able to keep the car rolling in the race. As Ryan Eason moving up now into 8th place, and that moves Ruotsalainen up to 9th in this battle between the Corvette and the BMW, opening up a little bit through the first corner at Dunlop and into that Dunlop chicane as well. The BMW looks to be much more confident on the brakes, but Ryan Eason keeping the speed very well through the corner. Not able, or he is able to leave that gap pretty open and not allow the BMW to pounce to the inside line and try and take that position away from him. So now exiting Tete Rouge and on to the road section go the Corvette and the BMW. Can the BMW get the slipstream that it needs? Just that little bit of top speed advantage to try and line up a move. The Corvette covering off the inside, forcing the BMW the long way around the first part, but the outside soon becomes the inside in these changing chicanes. But Ryan Eason covering off the braking zone very well, not allowing Ilpo to keep any momentum around the outside or even allow the switchback to happen. But under pressure once again will be the Corvette. Absolutely massive straightaways. Like we said, 85% of the lap is at full throttle, and this is certainly one of those sections. Now the BMW will have the inside line going into the Michelin chicane, and Ryan Eason pushing that BMW all the way to the inside line, and once again taking it out wide, and very confident on the brakes this time is the Corvette, keeping the BMW behind. And entering one of those flat out parts yet again are the Corvette and the BMW. Heavy braking zone coming up though. This the moment that Ilpo Ruotsalainen is looking for to get past Ryan Eason, and he is not shaping up a move for the time being. And exiting this corner is also very crucial. Lots of two-car battles going on here. You've got Burns and Hansen battling for 4th and 5th, then Swindon and Escorcia going side by side just ahead of the battling duo behind Ben Swindon to the inside, but Escorcia has the momentum in the McLaren around the outside already ahead before the kink at Indianapolis gets the move done. So Swindon in 7th, Escorcia moves up into 6th. He has the 2 Corvettes about 2 seconds up in front, battling for 5th and 4th place. So he will certainly look to close that gap and try and run away from the Aston Martin. Ryan Eason still in front of Ruotsalainen for the battle between the Corvette and BMW for 8th and 9th place. 20 minutes completed in the race, 25 still to go. 2-time fuel consumption is in play, so the cars will have to come in for a top-up of the virtual energy tank. We've seen a few drivers come into the pits already, so they will try to get the clean laps in while they can before the drivers out in front come into the pits. And speaking of drivers out in front pitting, Jake Terrell, Greg Ketch, and Aiden Burke, our top 3, are all in the pits. So we'll wait to see what happens here with Alex Hansen going into the pits, as well as Chris Barnes staying out. Alex Hansen did go into the pits, so this frees up Chris Barnes to put in some clean laps in front in the TF Sport Corvette. Does someone need a doctor? I think some of the drivers who are struggling with the new tire update need a doctor. Dr. Porkchop, please come revive them. So the box is absolutely heavy with action. Jake Terrell rolling back out, and that's Greg Ketch getting in front of the BMW. So the positions have swapped in the pits. Jake Terrell now back in 2nd place overall after Chris Barnes will complete his pit stop. So Jake Terrell behind Greg Ketch. Great pit stop from the Ford to get the position, just lining up his positioning in the box very well, and perhaps confident in the fuel saving ability of the Mustang and not taking on as much virtual energy as the BMW did. So now this will certainly be something to keep an eye on. Will Greg Ketch have the pace to clear Jake Terrell, or will Jake Terrell be very evenly matched as they were in the first stint before the pit stop phases opened up? Will Jake Terrell stay right on the bumper of the Mustang? We will certainly keep our eyes on that. From 146 BMW to another, this is Gomez Beira trying to get by the 46 BMW of Ilpo Ruotsalainen. Both of these drivers in the top 10. Ruotsalainen in 9th, still behind Ryan Eason in 8th place. And then you have Gomez Beira here rounding out the top 10, trying to use that slipstream as much as he can, but he's just not close enough to use it to the best of his advantage for the time being. Lester Banks in the Montai Racing Porsche trying to get by the BMW, or excuse me, the McLaren. Why am I thinking BMW? They're nearly pushing the McLaren down the entry of the Mulsanne Straight. Exiting Tete Rouge they go. Lester Banks looking to line up a move on the McLaren of Mick, nearly side by side, but the Porsche just doesn't have the straight line speed advantage to get by the McLaren without being in the slipstream. So he will just tuck in once again and try to line up the move down the inside of the Daytona chicane. Can the Porsche sweep through? He can. Up into 14th place goes the Montai Racing Porsche, a little bit wide on the exit there, but not much dramas at all. Getting the position on the 70 McLaren. And so the battle for 14th and 15th here will continue down the second part of the Mulsanne straight, but it doesn't look like the McLaren is quite close enough to pull off a move into the Michelin chicane. Hello, Raiders. Welcome. Thank you for the raid. Hope you guys had a good stream earlier on. Welcome to the season finale of the LM GT3 Championship as Mick going a little bit deep into the Mulsanne hairpin, allowing the 47 or the 27 of Thomas Baker to get just that little bit closer to potentially line up a move. But yes, welcome Raiders. Hope you're all doing well. Season finale here, 45-minute race underway, just under 20 minutes remaining. Chris Barnes now in the pits from the lead of the race. So that means that Greg Ketch is now in front, but under pressure from Jake Terrell in the Team WRT 46 BMW, who was in front before the pit stops, and now looking to get that position back from Greg Ketch in the 77 Mustang in front. Excuse me, folks, trying to find some water nearby there. Lots of action out on track. Very difficult to keep up with it all. So now after the pits, Chris Barnes comes out behind Omar Escorcia, who is able to jump both of the Corvettes after the pit stops. So the McLaren, the 59, up into fourth, Chris Barnes in fifth, and then Alex Hansen in the yellow Corvette behind, not too far off. The battle for the top four will continue on here down the Mulsanne straight. Oh, and there's contact between the McLaren and the Corvette. Not quite sure what happened there. It just looked like a bit of lag between the two cars, but certainly a heavy amount of damage to the McLaren. And now Alex Hansen sweeps through both of those positions. I don't believe that Ferrari is for position behind, but nonetheless there, lots of damage to the 59 McLaren. Escorcia dropping back down the order. Chris Barnes looking now to get the position on Alex Hansen. The two Corvettes nearly side by side into the Michelin chicane, but nothing separating the drivers just yet here, as Chris Barnes trying to line up that move on the Corvette. Alex Hansen already shaping up that defensive inside line on the braking zone of the Mulsanne hairpin. And Chris Barnes trying to sweep around the outside. Alex Hansen covers it off very well. Oh, and a very, very oversteery exit from Alex Hansen. Chris Barnes much cleaner, able to get the position. Now Alex Hansen tucking into the slipstream. The Ferrari there certainly making things interesting in this battle for fourth and fifth place between Barnes and Hansen. And Ben Swindon looking to get involved in the action there, about 3 seconds off in the blue Aston Martin. And now Alex Hansen using the slipstream very well, already back on the bumper of Chris Barnes, trying to get the switchback done here. but the Corvette of Barnes covering off the inside, forcing Alex Hansen the long way around. Can he get it done? That tire barrier comes up quick, but they are still side by side. Exiting Arnage, up to the Porsche curves they go. Can they really go side by side through here? The two Corvettes very evenly matched so far on this lap, trading places through nearly all of the braking zones. But Chris Barnes will have the inside through the first part. Can Alex Hansen find the grip around the outside? Still side by side, the two Corvettes, and Alex Hansen on the brakes, backing off, giving the position there to Chris Barnes, who holds on to fourth place come the end of the lap. And Alex Hansen will look to try and close up once again and continue their battle as he has a massive oversteer moment and into the barrier. They're not sure if there was contact with the Ferrari or not there, but that was a big moment for Alex Hansen in the 81 Corvette. Unfortunate there from Alex Hansen. Hopefully he's able to keep that car rolling. Not too much damage sustained. Looks like he's tucked right behind this battle of the two BMWs and the Corvette of Ryan Eason. So Eason here in 6th place ahead of Ilpo Ruotsalainen in the 46 BMW, leading his 46 BMW rival slash teammate Gomez Beira in 8th, and then Alex Hansen looking to get those positions back after the moment he had exiting the Porsche curves. And Ilpo is really pushing Ryan Eason once again. This battling continuing again after the pit stops opened up the gap a little bit, but Ilpo has closed it right back down. And now this battle between the Corvette and the BMW will certainly pick up, as they will have company coming up behind them as well. And up in front, Ben Swindon able to get by Chris Barnes for the position. And here Ryan Eason taking to the defensive line into the Daytona chicane, forcing Ilpo to go the long way around. He's holding it on the brakes. And with the new update came a new ABS update as well. And so the drivers still getting used to the tire model, the new ABS system as well. It's not a linear system where 1 is low and 10 is high. Each map has its own different variations in its settings. And so just because you have it set to a higher mode does not mean it is using it to the highest advantage. As side by side they try to go through the Michelin braking zone, and Ilpo once again just tucking in behind the Corvette, not having any room to get the move done. Ryan Eason doing a fantastic job of defending 6th place, as the BMW of Gomez Beira now goes through. Very big overspeed moment as Ilpo looking like he's just having to do a bit of fuel saving here potentially in his BMW to try to get it to the checkered flag. Perhaps just seeing a bit of lift and coast from the BMW of Ilpo, allowing Gomez Beira through. So now Gomez Beira will try to do what Ilpo could not, and that is get by the Corvette of Ryan Eason in 6th place. He needs to tuck into some slipstream. He sure does. It is easier said than done, though. Ryan Eason doing a very good job defending, and right as we say that, running him wide into the gravel. Easy position gained for Beira, but crucially, Ilpo Ruotsalainen just cannot find the way past the Corvette driver in front. So Gomez Beira now has a bit of clean air in front of him, about 4.6 seconds to get on the tail of the Corvette of Barnes. Just see them in the front of shot there, just beginning the Porsche curves, as Ilpo maybe lining a move here, or lining up a move here, I should say, into the Porsche curves, trying to go outside to inside, and that is Alex Hansen spinning on the entry, but it looks like he was able to hold the brakes very well and keep his Corvette out of the wall there. And still not losing too much ground was Alex Hansen, just losing a little bit of time here, but still holding on to 9th place. Hildenbrand rounding out the top 10 for the time being. So now Ilpo not having to look in his mirrors so much, with the Corvette of Alex Hansen dropping back a little bit of time, but still holding on to 9th place. A good top 10 position for him. And at the front, the gap really opened up between Ketch and Terrell, nearly 13 seconds now. Jake Terrell might come under pressure from Burke for that final podium position, as Hansen and Hildenbrand both in the pits from 9th and 10th. Side by side, Ilpo goes through on Ryan Eason. And Ilpo Ruotsalainen finally getting the move done in the final 10 minutes of the race. Moves up into 7th place past Ryan Eason. But Ryan Eason will certainly fight back in the Corvette in the slipstream. Very evenly matched were the BMW and the Corvette all race long. But the battle for the meantime, that looked weird, looked like he was texting and driving indeed, and that is the Ferrari going slowly there on the exit of the Daytona chicane. So Ryan Eason looking to stay within slipstream range of Ilpo Ruotsalainen and close that gap as best as he can. After the pit stop, Joshua Hildenbrand coming out in 12th place behind the number 70 McLaren of Mick. Already on the bumper to red opponents here. The BMW deep on the brakes, sneaking through to the inside of the braking zone, gets the move done and slides into 11th place. Great move, sneaking out at the last moment. Caught the McLaren by surprise there, it seemed, and giving plenty of space, allowing the BMW to go through. Hello, Ashley, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the final 8 minutes. At the closing round of the LM GT3 Championship here at Trackalicious on Fridays. Big grid started, unfortunately, seeing a few drivers succumb to a few injuries of the cars, having to return back to the pits. And of course, with the new update that came out earlier in the week, not the most amount of time for the drivers to get ready and prepare for the race. So perhaps just still getting used to all the little quirks and features of the tire update and the ABS update as well. So Joshua Hildenbrand getting that 11th place position, has about 10 seconds to get on the tail of Baker in the 27 Aston Martin, rounding out the top 10 places for the time being. Greg Ketch with a good lead of 12.5 seconds over Jake Terrell in the 77 Mustang. And the Mustang must be a beast on LMU. I can say it's pretty decent. I've only tried that and the McLaren so far of the, there they are, the only free cars in the GT3 world. So those are the only two that I have tried personally. And yeah, the split between third and fourth certainly opening up between Burke and Swindon, and Gomez, Beira, and Perkins back in the pits for a second time in the race here. So we will have to wait and see if indeed all of the front runners will have to come into the pits once again to complete the race and see the checkered flag. We will have this lap plus one more on the board. Just about 5.5 minutes left on the clock. The gap's opening up between the drivers as there are a bit of pit stop phases overlapping in the wrong spots here. So we'll just have to wait and see where those drivers come out, with Baker and Hildenbrand both in the pit lane here. We can see the number of pit stops everybody's done. Everyone in the top 7 completing 1. Then you have Gomez, Beira, and Perkins on 2 pit stops. Mick on 1. Bigley on 2. Torre on 1. Then Baker on 2. Hildenbrand completing his 3rd stop just now. Then Jay Daly. Ketch is just out on a Sunday drive. He sure is. Pretty relaxing way to spend a Friday, I would say. Out in the lead around the Circuit de la Sarthe. And there we can see the remaining drivers. Descharmais in the pits, and then the remaining drivers completing 2 pit stops in the race. Indeed, it just is looking to be that way for the time being. Time winding down in the race. We'll have 1 lap remaining once Greg Ketch crosses the line. What can we say that we haven't said? Greg Ketch in the Mustang out in front. The gap, though, has closed pretty drastically to Jake Terrell, so perhaps Ketch doing a bit of fuel saving on this lap. So, with the white flag waving from the marshal there, does Greg Ketch have enough fuel to complete and go the race distance? Terrell and Burke both do not, so they are both in the pits here. So that gives Greg Ketch plenty of breathing room to lift and coast should he need to, with the amount of fuel that he has remaining in the tank. Ben Swindon having to come in as well from 4th place. Unable to get the laps that he needs across the board. And so Terrell will come out of the pits in 2nd place. Chris Barnes will inherit the final podium position in 3rd place. He was the one driver that went a little bit later than those in the top 5, and so that has certainly benefited him in the long run here, able to keep the Corvette out for that crucial extra lap that he needed to complete at the end. And Greg Ketch has a 36-second advantage over Jake Terrell to try and get home on the fumes that he has remaining left in the tank. That gap is certainly closing, but is there enough time left in the race? Or in... oh my goodness, enough time in the lap left for Terrell to really close that gap down to 33 seconds now. Closing second by second. Mile by mile, it is going lower and lower. Joshua Hildenbrand trying to get the position in front of Baker now. This is the battle for 13th and 14th. Baker in the Aston Martin in front of Hildenbrand in the BMW. And with just 1 lap to go, Joshua Hildenbrand has 38 corners, 8.5 miles to try and get the move done past the Aston Martin driver in front. Gap in front now down to 30 seconds. Oh, and there's a spin on the exit of the Dunlop chicane from Hildenbrand, and that will unfortunately not help his chances of getting the position in front, but fortunately able to keep it out on the wall and is still rolling out on track, and he will certainly be happy to see the checkered flag. Thomas Baker is closing the gap to the Corvette in front of Carlos Torre. Less than half a second between the two drivers. Can Thomas Baker use that slipstream he needs to his advantage to get into that 12th position, currently being held by Torre? And he does. Torre perhaps doing the same and just running out of fuel. And so he having to heavily lift and coast. Thomas Baker moves up to 12th. Greg Ketch, 26 seconds in the lead, going through the Porsche curves for the final time in the season finale here in the Friday League at Trackalicious. The Ford chicanes just separate him from the checkered flag. The Ford was behind the BMW for the first stint. After the pit stop, came out in front and never looked back. Fuel saved to the end of the line. Checkered flag waving, and Greg Ketch will take it. He takes the win in the season finale around the Circuit de la Sarthe. Congratulations to you, Greg. Well done. Well deserved. Well managed. Jake Terrell not able to have the fuel to not come in for an extra pit stop, but fortunately that didn't cost them the podium position. He will finish in second place. Then Chris Barnes was able to do the long run, and he will take the third and final podium position. Then you have Aiden Burke in fourth, Ben Swindon in fifth, rounding out the Ford chicane for the final time to take the checkered flag in fifth place. Then Ilpo Rutsalainen in sixth place. Then you have Javier Gomez Beira in seventh, Lavoris Perkins in eighth place in the 88 Mustang. Then one Bigley in ninth, Ryan Eason in 10th place. Then you have Damon Mick in 11th, Thomas Baker in 12th, Carlos Torre in 13th, Joshua Hildenbrand in 14th, Alex Hansen in 15th, Jay Daly in 16th, but they are still out on track, so those positions may still yet change. Here is Perkins taking the checkered flag in 8th place. Eric, I got your message received. And as always, we always would love to invite our podium sitters to the green room for a quick chat while the rest of the field crosses the finish line here. Oh, and the wheel missing from Ryan Eason. He will go back to the pits. What happened there at the closing stages from him? And so that means Damon Mick will move up to 10th. Thomas Baker in 11th. Will Carlos Torre take 12th? He will, and the BMW of Hildenbrand will take 13th. Ryan Eason across the line in the pits in 14th place. Then you have Alex Hansen going through Arnage for the final time. He just has the Porsche curves remaining for him to round out. Sorry, excuse me there, reading a few messages here. Alex Hansen in the Corvette going through the Porsche curves. He is the last, or one of the last drivers out on track. And one Bigley, thank you for the hydrate. Take a sip of whatever fumes of tea I have left. I'm also running on fumes here this evening. But yes, Alex Hansen drifting out of the Corvette curves. And the raid is ready from the boss. Thank you, sir. I will certainly give you the nod when that is ready. And Alex Hansen with the 360 at the end. And he will take the checkered flag in 15th. Going across the line. Taking the checkered flag. Alex Hansen across the line. Then Jay Daly will finish out those out on track. He just has the Ford chicanes left in the Montai EMA Porsche. Taking the checkered flag to close out the season here in the 3-round championship at Le Mans Ultimate. Let's take it back to our lovely Trackalicious studio here and bring in our podium sitters. We've got Jake Terrell and Greg Ketch. Congrats to you two finishing out on the podium in the season finale. How is it feeling? How are the new tires? How is the new ABS? How is everything feeling, Greg?
It took a while to get used to it, but I really like it now. It's I think they fixed what they needed to. Maybe they overcorrected slightly with the level of like forgiveness on the limit, but I mean, the first few runs I hated it, and then I really warmed up to it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it seemed like you had pretty good control of it at the end. For the most part, did you have to do a bit of fuel saving at the end to get across the line?
I had to do so much fuel saving because Barnes in third, I saw he managed to get an extra lap, and I didn't think it was possible with the 2 times fuel consumption. But then I saw it was possible, and I'm thinking, okay, even if Jake and I just are miles up the road, an extra pit stop, he might still jump us. So at the second stint, I kind of got desperate to fuel save, and the last 2 laps were just so slow. But I just thought for sure he was going to jump us in the pits. It ended up being the case. But yeah, it was more fuel saving than I really wanted to do because I don't like racing like that because it's kind of boring. But I kind of wanted to see if it would work, and fortunately it did.
Yeah, great to see the checkered flag out in first. Congrats on that. Jake Terrell, another podium finish for you this season. Congrats. How about the update for you? How are they feeling? How are the tires, the ABS?
I mean, very, very much so. Like what Greg was saying is like first, I'd say hour and a half out on the new tires were just absolute pain. Not the most fun I've ever had. But with more practice at Le Mans and everything like that, I started to get used to the tires, and it's very easy to find the limit of the tires and like kind of float around it. But like Greg was saying, is like if you go over that limit a little bit, it's a little unforgiving. I feel like it was a good correction on the tires, just maybe a little overcooked. Because it feels like we're racing with 0 slip angle, and in racing there is a little bit, but feels like nothing at the moment. But Greg ran a great race. He was able to get up into my draft in the beginning of the race, and he kind of just sat there. He had a little bit of a shorter pit stop, and coming out of the pits, he was able to jump me because again, not used to the new tires, and completely spun him up leaving the pit box and almost spun it around in the pit lane, which
goodness.
But Greg ran a great race, and I can't be mad with P2 because a win and a P2, that's a championship for me, boys. Let's go. So.
Oh, what happened there? Jake, we lost you. Or am I malfunctioning? Hello? Hello?
No, I hear you.
Oh, okay. Weird.
He mentioned earlier that there were storms rolling, and there are for me too. So
Gotcha. Sounds
maybe
good.
it was that.
Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, losing Jake there, but still, yeah, championship win for him. Congrats to Jake for that. And congrats to you, Greg, for taking the win here in the season finale at Le Mans, one of the crown jewel tracks. So congrats to you two for finishing the season on a high. Looking forward to what happens next on Fridays and in the future. What I just in general, what the future of Le Mans holds. And yeah, congrats once again.
Appreciate it. Thanks for hosting.
No problem. Move you guys back to the green room here. And that brings us to our closing thoughts. On Sunday, we've got the ACC GT3 Championship. Monday, we've got the rookies in the GT4s. Tuesday, Le Mans Ultimate. Wednesdays, ACC GT3 and GT4. And then iRacing on Thursdays in the LMP2 and the GT3 Mixed Championship. Eric, we are ready for that raid. And speaking of that raid, thank you everybody for watching the stream tonight. Happy Friday to everyone. I hope you enjoyed the on-track action here at Trackalicious. I certainly did. That big grid certainly provided a great bit of action for us here this evening. And yeah, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you may be watching. Thank you for joining us. We will catch you all next time.